Hello.
Here we are. Celebration, Oscar time.
Yes. I always remember the Oscars because it's around my birthday. So it's like a little birthday present every year that I don't really want.
Yeah,
But
not anymore.
yeah, I've never been into the Oscars, to be honest. I always hate the idea of competition for art, creative, endeavors by people who create things shouldn't be subjected to that kind of thing. They're artists. They're giving us something to enjoy and to relate to and to love and to, why should we submit that? Why should we subject them to rating and, you're better than them, you're better than this. And that to me has always been a little weird.
I think there's a few things that work here. One is it's a business.
Yeah, that's the main
it's
thing.
art and commerce, so it's not strictly art. Yes, it's art, but it's also a business. And I think it's another extension arm of marketing that they want to do. And also, I feel like sometimes the biggest budget films are considered huge success. People that aren't in those movies don't get recognition. So I think getting nominated or winning an Oscar, if you're not in a Marvel movie, is a good way of getting some recognition for your work. Especially, and I think a lot of this is for the under the line, under the line, like wardrobe, makeup, people that you don't see in the credits. So I think, actors get this extra thing, and do they need it? Maybe not, but they're being voted on by other actors, and so I feel like they're getting a little bit of a judgment, not from the public, but from other people who are doing the same thing they're doing. So I feel like it's a valid extension of promotion and recognition for the art they're doing, and especially things like documentaries, shorts, things that don't really register with people. I think it's a way for them to get some more attention also.
But I think that's kind of the purpose of things like our podcast, where we just go in and talk about movies that are good. We have our end of the year lists and things like that, but I always try to make it like, these are just movies that I liked. I'm not saying this is the best movie or whatever. Right. And I think what bothers me about it is that when you put that competitive, when you add that aspect of competition to creative things, sometimes people make movies or create art or music in order to win. So they put certain things, you've heard the jokes, where you put that in there and you're going to get an Oscar, or this is exactly an Oscar performance. And so people sometimes, and you also get, like you're talking about, the unknowns, the little guys and whatever that don't, that aren't included because they're not trying to compete. They're making something really bizarre and, un-Oscar-y. You know what I mean?
Well, they can do that too. I mean, you don't have to make an Oscar film. You don't have to be nominated for an Oscar. It's all just voluntary. So it's like
everybody who makes a horror film is literally excluded from the Oscars, or everyone who makes a strange science fiction film or a unique art type film. They're not competing. It's almost like they're running the race next door and they're not in the big race.
Yeah, I don't think they plan to be in the race, though. That's one of those where I think people know when they're making Oscar prestige films,
right?
And they either are or they're not. And I don't think a lot of people are making it. Besides, if you're the anointed few,
right?
Making it for winning awards, but I'm okay with it. I don't mind the awards. I'm okay with it. I think it's kind of fun, and I like to see people being themselves on the screen. They get up on stage. And sometimes people take a moment to bring some attention to issues, and I don't know.
And like you said, the below the line people, not necessarily below the line, but the sort of unsung heroes of film production, the production designers, the wardrobe, hair, makeup, special effects, sound design. Editing, which is total unsung hero, cinematography, all those things. I love seeing those things celebrated and appreciated, and seeing those people get up on the stage and accept their Oscars. That's like, okay, a little bit of vindication there for the people in the trenches.
Exactly. Yeah. So for that, I'm okay.
You're right. Okay.
There's always sort of, and because there's a competition at the box office, it is competitive, whether we like it or not. So you know, the Barbie Oppenheimer, like it was a fucking horse race. It was 2 movies coming out, you know. So, you know, so here we are, and let's check it out. Let's break them down. Talk about predictions, who we think should win, who we think should win, who maybe wasn't nominated. I think we know who we're
should have been nominated. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start first with actor.
Oh, we're gonna start at the top here. The actor and actress in a leading role, or
this is the order they are on the actual Oscars website. So we have Bradley Cooper for Maestro.
Okay.
Coleman Domingo for Rustin. Paul Giamatti, The Holdover. I feel like I'm at the Oscars right now.
Right.
Where's my envelope?
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Okay.
And the winner is someone. I mean, it's probably going to be Cillian Murphy. I can smell a sweep, you know.
Yep,
and
I think so too.
That movie was pretty intense and profound and serious, and it also had, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is such a treasure. I think he is such a good, solid presence, and we've grown up with him. You know, he's one of those people that we've been through good times and bad times with him, and we've watched him suffer and struggle. So he's the kind of person that you want to see win. So he'll come up a little bit later, but
he's not in this category.
It wasn't a leading role, but these are all good, you know, all good people, of course.
Yeah.
But I just think Oppenheimer is probably going to sweep.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a surprise here and there, but I mean, I think Cillian Murphy deserves it. I feel like he totally did the role. You know, I liked Oppenheimer. I didn't love it. So I'm one of the few that did not love. I thought it was a little bit of a tedious watch, and I thought the sound was really confusing to me. So I appreciated it for the auteur kind of art film that it was, as a big mega blockbuster from a really important filmmaker, but not my favorite Chris Nolan film, but I could see why it was important and why it was considered artful.
And it's great to see Cillian Murphy carrying a lead role too, because he's been in every Christopher Nolan film, but as a, you know, in the background, he played the Scarecrow, and he played, you know, the guy whose dreams they invade, and all these different roles that were very important and showed off his. I mean, he's done lead roles before, like 28 Days Later and all that, but in a major film like this, and in a Christopher Nolan film, it's almost like he's been in training with Christopher Nolan for a while, and it's like, okay, now you get the lead role.
I know, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna finally let you be the lead in my movie.
In the biggest, most acclaimed movie he's ever made, which is cool.
And he was amazing. He was very haunted. Like, I really I didn't even really see him in that role. Like, he disappeared, which is, you know, that's
he's a fantastic actor. I mean, he looked like Robert Oppenheimer. When you look at pictures of Oppenheimer, when you listen to him in old interviews, Cillian Murphy studied that stuff, and there's some actors that physically seem to morph into the person that they're playing. Yeah. I know that's a lot to do with hair and makeup, which this film may also get.
And that also applies to Bradley Cooper, Maestro. That was all about the prosthetic and how he looked like him. But to me, he didn't disappear like Cillian Murphy did. Even with the prosthetic, I still saw Bradley Cooper, and I didn't actually see. So now we have actor in supporting role. This is what we were talking about before, right? Yeah. So we have Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction. Robert De Niro, Killers. It's weird that he's the actor supporting role. De Niro.
I know.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer. Ryan Gosling, Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things. All of these are incredible. Now, this is one. I always feel like the supporting actors is the hardest one, honestly.
Yeah.
I loved Robert Downey Jr. in that, but there were so many good performances here. I really don't know who to pick.
Well, I thought Robert Downey Jr. was incredible in this film. He just looked like a haunted old man, and he didn't look like an actor. You know, that's the thing that is so, to me, when I see a really good performance, I forget that this person is an actor, you know, and it seems like a person, and the way a person is in reality. I know that sounds weird, but you know, there's so many actors who they're acting, and that's fun too, and that's great. But Robert Downey Jr. disappears, like Cillian Murphy disappears into a role, and he's Robert Downey Jr. He's Iron Man, you know, he's so recognizable and so famous.
Yeah.
And so we know his details of his private life and all this stuff, but he still manages to play a character in a movie where I totally bought him as not an actor, not Robert Downey Jr. He was the guy that, and I appreciated that a lot. And of course, you know, that's another aspect of the sweep that I think is going to happen with Oppenheimer. I think he's probably.
I know it does seem like a sweep. So I love Sterling K. Brown. I did a couple shoots with him for the show This Is Us. So he feels like family. So I'm rooting for him, and he was so great in this. I mean, he was always great. Yeah, but he got to do something really different in that. And Robert De Niro, to me, was like the Robert De Niro I've been wanting to see for a while. I feel like we saw like, the old school scene stealing Robert De Niro, and he was just, to me, almost a revelation. Yeah. I mean, he could do that stuff in his sleep, but he was so good. And Robert Downey Jr., again, great Oppenheimer. And I do feel like there's probably an Oppenheimer sweep happening here. Yeah. Ryan Gosling, way better than he had to be. And he brought so much depth and so much emotion to a role that did not require it. And he was a surprise. Like, I feel like he catapulted levels in acting, I think, from that role. He can do anything. Really, and the singing, the dancing was fantastic. And he just had that wink, like you believed in it, was sincere, but he had a wink. And I thought that was really, really crafty performance. Just enough of a wink. You know, and then Mark Ruffalo. Fine line between losing it, losing the thread. Exactly. Yeah, and he didn't, and he didn't make it a caricature. Like it was a caricature in a way on purpose, but it worked and had a heart. So that to me was probably the hardest role, bringing like something serious to a film like Barbie. Like that. And that's the other thing. Sometimes actors undermine a comedy by there's something in the delivery of their performance that is telling us, I know this is dumb and I'm not into it. Yes. I'm not really here. I'm just doing it for the money. There's something that comes across. And Ryan Gosling 100% committed to that character, even though it was playing a toy, living toy. He committed to it, and that's what makes a really good, memorable performance. You felt for the toy, for Ken, and I just loved him in it. Loved him. All right, and then Mark Ruffalo, I thought he was really good. I didn't super love this movie. I thought it was just a little unpleasant. That was just me. So I feel like he was kind of a thankless role, but he was good, and he's always good. But I feel like he's kind of outshone a little bit by all the other people, which technically I'm rooting for Ryan Gosling because I want Barbie to win something, and I feel like they can talk about this later, what's happened with Barbie. But at the same time, I kind of don't want him to win because he's the man in the film, and that's kind of against the whole point of the movie. So, and I do like that he's come out and made some statements about he said exactly what he should have said. Guy's a class act, basically. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think I'm torn between probably Robert De Niro and Robert Downey Jr. Even though I want Ryan Gosling to win. So mine's more like he should win. I want him to win, but it's probably going to be the Oppenheimer sweep. But then Robert De Niro, I think, deserves it, even though he's been acknowledged many times. Right. All right. Next. That's actress in a leading role. All right. We have Annette Bening in Nyad. Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, who I think is a shoe-in, honestly. Sandra Huller, Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan, Maestro. Emma Stone, Poor Things. Right. We don't have an Oppenheimer entry here because I don't think there were any women in Oppenheimer. No, there were, but there actually were some great women performances in that film. But it was a man movie for sure. It well, most of these were. So I mean, the Killers of Flower Moon. I think the fact that Lily Gladstone broke out so much in that by being so quiet and elegant, like she's very serene. I want her to win. I think that's. I do too. That's who I'm picking too. I don't really know who. I mean, I think Maestro technically is a little overrated. I liked it, but it felt a little like, what you were saying, like we want to win an Oscar, and it just felt a little contrived to me. That's his name. It's one of those historical films that I feel like if you can watch videos of the actual person and interviews with him and all that, and it's so much better than the movie. It's like the real person is there for us to see on film, and not and we don't get the nuances of his daily life, of course, like we do in a film, which is speculation at best, but I would much rather watch a blurry old YouTube video of him talking about music, talking about the Beatles or something. And it's fascinating, just an amazing,
knowledge of music, rather than watch a movie like this. I don't know. I'm just that way with historical dramas sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's impression. You get an impression feeling from it. I don't want to print. So Lily Gladstone.
Yeah.
She's down south for me.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah. Okay, we have. Wait, did I skip one? No. Okay, directing. We have. Let's see. Wait, did I miss actress in a lead role? Did we talk about that already?
Or in a supporting role. Actress in a supporting role.
Oh, we did talk about that. Okay, supporting role. We're here. Okay.
There we go.
All right, so actress in a supporting role. Emily Blunt Oppenheimer. I think it's going to be her. Daniel Brooks, The Color Purple. Well, we'll talk about this. Actually, it probably won't be. American Ferrera Barbie, who I think for the one speech alone, she should win. Jodie Foster Naiad and Davine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers. So,
yeah.
I mean, when I think about it, Emily Blunt was almost a non-entity in that movie. I feel like she wasn't in it that much, and I didn't really feel like it was a little bit one note, disturbed alcoholic. American Ferrera to me was inspiring. She gave that great speech. She didn't overdo it. She felt very human, and I like that too because she seemed like she was the human compared to the doll. Very, very, very great performance and just very inspiring.
She's another actress that it just has a presence to her that you just like her when you meet her in the film. When she shows up in the film, you're like, oh, I like her, And she also has this natural delivery. I worked a little bit on that show, Ugly Betty, and met her a few times, and super, super nice. And you did photo shoots with her, right? Just super nice. One of those people that you're like, okay, cool, nice,
Just a pro and pleasant, and, just so I'm rooting for America.
So I want her to win.
Me too. I want her to win. All right, I know it's against the Oppenheimer sweep, but
and also Jodie Foster, who is so beloved, and just another one of those actors like Robert Downey Jr. who we've grown up with, even more so with Jodie Foster. I mean, I feel like I was she was my friend when I was a kid, and now we're adults, and she's still my friend, in films. You always just like her again. She's one of those actresses that somehow projects her personality off the screen, and you feel like who she is,
Yeah. I think American Ferrera should win. It's not like it's a huge conglomerate who decides to strategize as saying Barbie should win this category because we screwed them over in the category.
We need more Barbies, we need more
Barbie. It doesn't work that way.
Nominations.
No, it doesn't work that way. No. So it's how people vote, and there are other actors. So it's all up to them. All right. So now we're going to go to directing.
Yes.
All right. So Anatomy
this is a tough one. I think the average person in the public, the public person out there, this is the first level of non-acting filmmaking that people have to delve into a little bit and learn a little bit, because they know what actors do. Actors get up there and play make-believe in front of the camera. But then a lot of people, they know director makes the movie, right? But they don't really know what a director does. And so sometimes people who do know what directors do, people who have worked on film sets most of their lives, and watch directors working and realize how much of the film is in the hands of the director, and how different, if you take the script and make a copy of that script and give it to two different directors, you will have two radically different movies.
Well, it's their vision. I mean, everyone else is basically just a tool to bring his vision to life. So the director is basically the one who's in charge of everything.
Yeah, a lot of the subtleties, they work with the actors, of course, but
it's their vision.
I mean, I've seen iconic moments in films being born on set where a director will say, you know what, when you're walking away, walk a little slower and turn around and look back, and let's try that. And they shoot it, and that becomes like the goosebumps moment in the film. That becomes
directing,
and that's directing. Yeah,
exactly. So
it's not in the script. It doesn't say she slows down and turns around and looks again. It's like that's a nuance that that kind of thing is what a director does. And so that's why they're at the top of the list, as far as
I feel like films fail or succeed on the shoulders of the director. You can have a great actor, and if the movie's not good, or if the director fails them in every other way, then it's a wasted performance. So we want to see good films, and that's about the director. All right, so we got Natty with a Fall. Again, it's another, this movie's nominated a lot also. Justine Triet. Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese.
Who's that?
One of our legends. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Yorgos Lanthimos, and Jonathan Glazer. Look at all those dudes.
Yeah. We got a Justine in there, right?
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese has made some good things, I think, right? He's done some pretty good movies. I can't think of any, but he's done some really good movies. And has he never won an Oscar for directing? I believe
he has to have won. No way.
I don't think he has. I think that's something about Martin Scorsese, and he is getting up there a little bit, and I think he may win this just on his gravitas, on his Martin Scorsese-ness, and the fact that he has given us so many brilliant movies, and I believe he has not won for Best Director.
He is considered the most nominated living director, second only to William Wyler.
Right, with never a win.
Interesting. He won for The Departed, of all films. I thought The Departed was good, but he didn't win for all those other incredible films like Taxi Driver.
He won Best Director.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he was one of the, maybe I'm thinking about something I read before The Departed came out that was he's been nominated so many times but never won. But he only won for The Departed, which I think is a fantastic movie, incredible movie.
Well, I mean, he's done so many incredible films, and it's weird to me that of all of them, I don't know. Anyway,
he didn't win for Raging Bull or Taxi Driver or
nominated.
Goodfellas. That's like the ultimate director's film right there.
He wasn't even nominated for Taxi Driver. He wasn't even nominated for Taxi Driver.
Nobody knew who he was.
I know, fucking hell. And Gangs, what was the one with Ray Liotta? The blanking.
Oh, Goodfellas. Yeah.
Goodfellas. What the hell?
I know. That's a movie that is just screams direction.
Nominated.
You watch that movie.
Nominated. I don't want against him in that year. I don't know. So, I mean, Oscar doesn't always get it right. Because, again, we're talking about people, other directors are voting. So, we don't know if it's competitive. We don't know, if somebody's Scorsese, I'm sick of this guy. But we don't know what their emotions are when they're voting for Best Director. So, that's who we got. Well, but now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the huge pink elephant in the room.
Right.
Why? Yeah. Because biggest movie of the year.
Yeah.
It saved the box office. That Maverick.
And brilliantly directed. It's a movie that was just. It's a directed movie. It's a movie that what you're seeing is the work of a director who completely understands the material, the characters, the intent of the story, and just the delivery of such a thing that is so. I mean, to undertake such a thing is how the hell do you say yes to that project and then start thinking, okay, how am I going to do this?
Especially with the toy maker involved, you're thinking they're never going to let me take chances with this film. And she made a work of art out of it. She made basically an art film out of a toy movie and made it way better with a really strong emotional message that I think appealed to women, girls, men. I mean, I don't think I know lots of men who saw that movie and understood what they were trying to say with that movie.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to me that what they're talking about in the patriarchy in this film is what is happening in the Oscars by nominating Ryan Gosling and not nominating Greta Gerwig or Margot Robbie. It's like, what the hell?
It's that line in the film where he finally comes to the real world and he's seeing it and he goes back to her and he's so happy. He's like, Barbie, this whole place is run by men.
It's great.
Fantastic.
It's so funny.
And it's like,
what the hell?
Yeah.
So that was to be like, they hit a wall, like when they went out of the Barbie land and into the real world, and it was like hitting a brick wall. I'm like, wait, women don't run things out here?
Right.
Guess what? They don't run things here either.
Yeah.
It's like they never. So it was especially galling that something so obvious didn't happen. It just breaks my heart that, and I'm glad that Justine Triet is in this.
Yeah.
But she didn't make the biggest movie of the year, and it felt like a slap in the face to Greta Gerwig to not nominate her.
Well, Barbie is a movie that people are going to still be watching in years. It's not going to get it's not one of those sort of flash in the pan kind of Oscar things. I don't think. I mean, I think it's still it's going to be one of those movies that people quote, and there's going to be memes about it for a while. It's going to be a movie that people are attached to. People are going to sort of, how people grew up with certain movies. I think there's young girls, young women and men too, who are sort of growing up with that movie, and it kind of speaks for their moment, and they're going to carry that movie with them the way some people carry, Star Wars or, Caddyshack or whatever, Ghostbusters. So it's got that going for it. Maybe it doesn't need an Oscar, it'll still be with us. It's Oscar. The lack of an Oscar nomination for that as best film or best director, I think, is not going to hurt it.
Well, it's not going to hurt it, but it hurts women in film by not taking them seriously in a way. She couldn't even make the biggest movie of the year and get nominated for something like the Oscars. It's just, how much do women have to do to be taken seriously?
But even as far as not selling tickets or whatever, it's a profoundly good movie and profoundly well directed. It's not just one of these things where, let's give it to her because we should. It's like, no, this is absolutely deserving of the acclaim or the the nomination or the win or whatever. There's a reason why it was the number one. It's the number one movie.
It got women into theaters, which women are wholly underserved in films in general, and they don't really make a lot of movies like this for women. I mean, I don't necessarily want to go see message films for women all the time.
Right.
I do want movies with some equal representation. I do want movies that have a genuine female experience. It's like, I feel like I see male gaze all the time. I'm used to that, and they'll have women in films and they'll just be the object of desire, or it's hard to find movies where women have their own agency. Poor Things in their own way kind of did, but it still felt very male gaze to me. Even though it was supposed to be her taking agency, it was still very male gaze to me. But I don't know. So we have Oppenheimer, which could sweep. I don't know.
It was well directed. It's beautifully directed. I really love Christopher Nolan's style. One thing though, I mean, I love Christopher Nolan. I love his movies. I love the intelligence of them. I love the depth and the complexity, the puzzle nature of them. Yeah. I love the fact that there's things dropped into his movies that am I seeing? Is there something underneath the surface that I should be seeing? I feel like he's one of those directors that's over my head, like Stanley Kubrick. And if something doesn't quite make sense to me, I feel like it's because I am primitive, inferior to the filmmaker. Yeah. And there's scenes in Oppenheimer that I think were subtle, like the scene where Oppenheimer talks to Einstein, and you see that from two different perspectives, and the time seems distorted. Like from one person's perspective, it seems like it was just a moment of discussion, and then from another person's perspective, it took a long time for that to happen. And that is Einstein's theory about if you're closer to a mass, time passes a different way than it does if you're out in space going fast. I wonder if he did that on purpose, and I think he probably did. And that's what I love about his direction, is that he doesn't underestimate people. He's not pandering. You have to keep up with him. But unfortunately, that kind of alienates some people. And also his choices with sound design, like you mentioned before, it can be hard to hear people talking because I think Christopher Nolan loves music. And he loves the power of music, and he realizes that music is a part of filmmaking. And he's worked with great musicians, some of the best film score people, and he puts it up front a little bit too much. It's like
too much. And he does all the sound like live on the set, and he doesn't do it later. Which in a way is cool, but also, I mean, half the time I didn't understand what anyone was saying, and it was already hard enough. But also, I feel like you were talking about the intellectual aspect of the film, it just feels chilly. I didn't really care about anybody in this movie. Like, I didn't really like anyone in this
It was
movie.
hard.
Like, they were just kind of placeholders. I mean, I enjoyed Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, but I didn't really like him. You know, it's like,
no, you don't
really
like anybody really.
Oppenheimer. So I feel like I was kind of watching everything from a distance. So again, it's an auteur film. It was very smart. It was a beautiful representation of something terrible.
Yeah. It's a film about people that we don't normally encounter.
Yeah, it's a film about intellectuals, which was kind of interesting. But I feel like it's the just complete diametric opposite of like Barbie, which was all heart.
Yeah.
Heart, inspiration, character where you didn't have it before. Like you didn't need dolls have care. You actually cared about the people. Ryan Gosling brought humor and depth to his character, who was kind of a sidekick, basically. I mean, and it was just a miracle of filmmaking. Where I feel like Oppenheimer is predictably good. Like, there's nothing really surprising in it. I feel like, you know how it's going to end. You know all about it. We get to see the moving parts going to the inevitable conclusion. So I feel like there was a little lack of connection, heart, and any suspense, because you know exactly what's going to happen. So that's basically where I am on Oppenheimer.
But you liked Oppenheimer, right? I liked it. But what did you like? I mean, what was it that carried you through that movie? What about it did you like?
Cillian Murphy, his eyes. I mean, basically, his expressions, these long shots of him just watching.
Brooding.
Riveting. I don't know why. I just never get tired of that. So well done. Loved it. But otherwise, not a lot. Not a lot. I think Killers of the Flower Moon was just another super unpleasant. A lot of these movies are very unpleasant.
Yeah.
Very unpleasant to watch. Very sad, horrible, tragic, terrible. Another terrible moment in American history. There's so much of this year. And, but, you know, I enjoyed it. And I thought there was a little bit of a, even though it was terrible and terrible things happening, you could tell the actors were having some fun with it. Like, I loved Leonardo DiCaprio being kind of a schlub. And I liked, you know, I liked De Niro's kind of sly, little, yeah, it's all working out. Yeah, you know, he was so funny. I loved him. But yeah. So, but I think Barbie Oppenheimer, it just feels like an Oscar movie, you know. But I want, I mean, of all filmmakers, Scorsese or Christopher Nolan would be great if they won. I think they deserve it. Yeah,
and I have a feeling with this one. My prediction is that it will be Martin Scorsese, because he's so beloved, and I feel, I hate to say this, but he's getting a little older, and I think we may not see too many more films from him, sadly. I don't know how else to put that, but you know what I mean? He is, we have to just really cherish everything we get from him. Like a while back, The Irishman, I remember when that came out thinking, oh, I hope this isn't his last movie. And then he comes out with this one, which is like this hugely ambitious film. To me, it looks like a film by a young person, you know, like P.T. Anderson age person or some, you know, like a younger person. But he's, you know, he's an older fellow, and he's out there making these giant epics, you know, these massive.
Yeah, and it was epic. I mean, the music was incredible. You know, the set design. I loved how they basically built that thing, and they went to some. You know, I just loved it. I liked the weird, you know, the billiard table in with the barbershop. I remember reading an interview with the set designer about how he came, you know, talked Scorsese into that, saying, no, it's where men hang out, you know. So I loved that. So, but you know, this is those two films are very masculine, and I think the reason I'm kind of edging toward Killers of the Flower Moon is because of Lily Gladstone. Yeah. So because of her being so great, I kind of lean toward that. So I'm hoping for Scorsese, even though it's probably going to be Nolan, just because Oppenheimer was so huge. But I don't know. We'll see. It might
be, but I have a feeling there might be a
directors are a wild card sometimes. You never know.
Yeah. I just have a feeling people will really love to see Martin Scorsese go up there on that stage and accept an Oscar. You know, I think that's something that we really, really want to see right now.
Yeah. Especially
because Nolan has still got a bunch of million years ahead of him and a bunch of more movies ahead of him. Yeah. We need to pile on the love on Martin, I think.
I think so too. And that movie wasn't nearly as tedious as Oppenheimer. Okay. So next I'll go to Best Picture. We're basically talking about Best Picture already. Yeah. All right. So these are tiny because here, maybe I
have to get a little closer. Okay, there we go.
All right. We have American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall. We've seen all these names already. Barbie, the holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. So we've seen all of these movies getting some attention already through other awards. So
maybe Barbie will get this one, even though Oppenheimer is on there, and Killers of the Flower Moon. That might be the big surprise of the Oscars, because that would sort of make amends for everything else.
I know,
because really she would get to go up there on the stage and accept the award, and
so Best Picture is when the entire Academy votes, right?
Yeah.
Because before, it's everyone's category, like editors vote for editors, actors vote for actors, directors vote for, and then this is the one where they all get to vote. So it could go anywhere, really. I mean, for all I know, American Fiction should win, and I'd love to see that win, but it feels small and intimate compared to these other huge epics. So I don't know. Oscar kind of leans toward epics, but sometimes they surprise us with Best Picture. I would love for Barbie to win just because they screwed over Greta Gerwig so hard that they should give her Best Picture, but it doesn't work that way. It's voting. It doesn't work that way. It's not like there's this like, because we did that. No one's thinking that.
Yeah.
So, there we are. So it'll probably be a dude's movie, I'm guessing. I wonder
if the Oscars has any kind of, if they can, I mean, there's no law. They're not breaking laws if they rig these kind of elections. So I wonder if they do
credibility. They can't. No, they can't.
Yeah, but I wonder sometimes if they're like, that's going to give us some negative publicity if we don't do this, or if we do this, we really need for this to happen. And
no, if they did that, then they would ruin no one would. It would go completely go away. And it has to have, and really the credibility, even if it's sexist or racist or whatever, that is the tone of the entertainment industry at this point. If you're not going to vote for a woman for Best Director, and we have still a lot of work to do, which we do. So it just proves that we still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot more diversity in these nominations, which is great. Still have a lot of work to do. So I'm glad that we have movies with a lot of diversity. Bit by bit. But
takes a while.
Of all years that a woman should have won an Oscar, there's only been 3 in the entire history of Oscars.
Yeah.
It's bullshit she didn't get it. So anyway.
It's weird.
I agree with Ryan Gosling. The man in the film. I agree with him.
Yeah.
But I think I'm rooting for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Barbie technically. My number one film I want is Barbie, but the film I think is probably going to win is Killers, but I'm rooting for Barbie.
I think it would bring the house down if Barbie won. It would be one of those things where it was like people would be cheering. It would be like the coolest thing.
Feel-good moment.
Yeah, it would be a real feel-good moment, because I think so many people were uplifted by that film, and it's like, I think a lot of people feel like that's my movie. That was my movie, And it would be such a feel-good thing if that movie won. But I have a feeling, and Killers of the Flower Moon, amazing film, Martin Scorsese. But I have a feeling Oppenheimer, because it is an Oscar-y film, It did
really well.
It did really well. It's got amazing performances in it. Yeah. It's beautifully directed. It is an unusual choice. It's like Barbie, which is weird. They came out, the whole Barbenheimer same day release, and both of them were blockbusters. Mm-hmm. Both of them are unlikely movies. They're both super unlikely. Can you imagine? Yeah. Let's make
the Oppenheimer is a blockbuster. Like, who's going to see that? Like, it was shocking.
Yeah. No, I read books about physicists, and I've read as many as I can get my hands on about physics and the history of physics and the history of the people who dig into it and have uncovered all this absolute weirdness of physics and the quantum world and all the atomic stuff. So I was very familiar with Oppenheimer, and when I heard Christopher Nolan is making a movie about Oppenheimer, I was like, boy, is that going to be a boring movie. I mean, what are they going to, if they're going to make a movie about the Manhattan Project? Certainly it's interesting to read about, but it's going to be a bunch of guys sitting around talking about physics.
So many guys.
Nobody got murdered. There was no car chases. There's no, there's no love interest kind of stuff going on. It's just people talking about physics, and the big drama in it is realizing how much, how much temperature can this metal take more than that metal. This is a better metal to use for heat sinks, and this circuit would probably be better for limiting the amount of current that's going. It's dry.
That is our Oscar nominee right there.
But when I watched the film, I was like, that to me, it was absolutely fascinating. He was able, and this is in the hands of the director, he was able to take that subject matter and make a movie that was engaging. And I followed it all the way through. I thought it was completely fascinating the whole way through.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not into science, the physics and the science and the development of a huge government like a missile weapons program using brand new technologies and whatever, it may not be interesting to you. So I totally understand that too. So it was a weird choice.
How many times have you seen Oppenheimer? How many times?
I've seen it like twice. I saw it twice.
Have you seen any of these other films more than once?
I saw Barbie 3 times.
Because I'm thinking, like, when you think about films to rewatch, and granted, Oppenheimer is 3 hours, so that's kind of a little bit of a barrier, but I don't want to watch that again. Like, I don't even want to see it again. Like, I want to see Barbie again. Every time I see the art, I want to watch it again.
Barbie is fun every time I watch it. Yeah.
I've watched that Ken Enough song, like, so many times. I cannot get enough of that. And I love the Owl Kitty version of the Ken song.
Right.
It's another YouTube channel. I'm going to give him a little shout out because it's brilliant. But it's like, I never get tired of that. But Oppenheimer, no desire to see that again. It was just so depressing and so sad and so downbeat. And it's like, but I mean, again, beautiful, like very auteur.
With just about almost all of Christopher Nolan movies, I watch them, and then a day later, I'm like, I want to see it again, because I wanted, after the ending, I want to watch it from the beginning again and see how it gets to the end. The way he constructs the films, like Tenet, you had to see Tenet. I
saw that twice and still barely understand it. It just twists my brain.
I still watch Inception.
But his movies are complicated. Oppenheimer is linear. It wasn't complicated. It went from beginning to the end. You knew the project. Basically. Around. I know, but we're talking about time travel. I'm like, it's not time travel.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, we had a basic linear narrative.
Right.
Yeah, we had some flashbacks, but we knew where we were going from the beginning. We knew where we ended. We knew.
Right.
But in Inception and Tenet, what the hell? Like, it's just like crazy.
You have to wrap your mind around some really big things, and he doesn't draw diagrams. He's not drawing diagrams for you. He's like, keep up, people. This is happening, and I'm not slowing down for you. Keep up, or watch it 3 or 4 times. So,
final word. What is your prediction for Best Picture at this point?
My prediction for Best Picture is Oppenheimer, because it's so. I mean, I'm just going with the obvious choice. I think it's just such an Oscar kind of movie. Yeah.
I'll go with Barbie just to represent. So I'm going to vote for that because I feel like it should vote. We should. I
would love to see the reaction if Barbie wins. Because it would be a kind of an unexpected, surrounded by Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon and all that. Martin Scorsese and Christopher Nolan.
I think they would actually be glad to see a woman go up there and get
they would totally be glad.
I think they would love to see that happen. I mean, who knows? It probably
and
won't,
she's not an old school person like they are.
Movies. I mean, she's done a few already that have been well received. So
yeah.
All right. So there's our Oscar episode. Just the top categories. We'll probably do another episode with maybe some other categories, like documentaries, maybe wardrobe and hair, cinematography. I'd love to do more like soundtracks, stuff like that. But for time, we'll do another part 2 Oscars later.
Yeah, this is already 2 hours long. Good Lord.
Oh my God, so endless. Everybody's just
3 hours long.
Oppenheimer?
The Oppenheimer edition of the...
A tedious long video, Oppenheimer. I mean, the Oscar episode. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
And let us know your guesses. Let us know your predictions, your favorites, just what you want to win. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, tell us movies that we were talking about, movies that you've seen over and over. That to me, that's a kind of a test, Kathy says she doesn't want to see Oppenheimer a second time. I think I might have another few times of Oppenheimer left in me, but
really?
But Barbie,
without fast forwarding anything?
No, there's that movie is so dense with information and little moments in history. I mean, it's got things like Richard Feynman is in there, and he's playing his bongo drums, and to me, that was like, you know, if you know, I mean, I've read every Richard Feynman book, you know, and I know his whole thing about his whole experience of the Manhattan Project. It could be a whole nother movie, and just seeing him, you know, sitting there playing his bongo drums, that was beautiful to me. That was so cool, but you have to kind of know the history. And
I know it's funny because I feel like the man is rooting for Oppenheimer, the woman is rooting for Barbie. We're like the stereotype reporter.
I'm not rooting for it. I'm actually predicting, but I'm rooting for Barbie. I would love to see Barbie win. Because,
I know it's funny we're predicting, but
yeah,
I'm just saying that's the difference. But you know, I never get tired of watching Ryan Gosling talk about his blonde fragility, even though he's the man in the film. That was a genius performance. All right.
Yeah, it was
okay.
It was all kinds of things. It was and more than the sum of its parts, or whatever they say. You know, there's more going on.
So much going on. All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for the special Oscar program, and say goodbye, Kathy.
I did. I said goodbye.
I thought you were going to say goodbye, Kathy.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye, everybody.